Quiz 4142 is tomorrow. We're going to go on to logs and solving and all that stuff starting on Thursday. This is just kind of the basic mechanics and the interest stuff to get that out of the way before we solve logs, which is 434445. For the interest problems, guys, you need to know these two formulas, all right? Interest is your principal times 1 plus, it's your rate divided by n, and then you're going to raise that to the n times t power. That's when we're compounded a certain way, like continuously, monthly, quarterly, weekly, daily, that sort of a thing. We use a pert down here when you have something that is continuous. That is when you use a pert. So the best thing that you could do is identify what your question is asking. Letter A, okay, we're going to use the same information for A, B, C, and D. But the letters A, B, and C, your n value changes. In D, you don't have an n value. So for quarterly, what is our n value that we're going to use? 4, right? Good. If I have monthly, what does n equal? 12. And if I have weekly, what does n equal? 52, okay? Now, in order for you guys to get full credit on any of these calculator problems, you have to show me what you plugged into the calculator. If all you do is show me an answer, you're not getting full credit. I don't even care if the answer's right. You have to show your supporting work. So let's go through here and identify the different pieces of our formula. What is the principal? What is the initial amount that's invested? 1,580. Good. 1,580, okay? What is the interest rate that we are investing at? 2.35. So it says 2.35%. Is that what we use in our formula? No, you have to use 0.0235. If you don't make that change, you're going to get an error message in your calculator or some crazy random number. And then what is the time in years? 6, okay? We're going to use this same information in all of the problems. A, B, C, and D. Your n value changes for A, B, and C, and then the formula changes for D. So what I need to see from you guys is this. Your principal, 1,580, times 1 plus, what is the interest rate? 0.0235. We're compounding quarterly, so divided by 4. And this is raised to the 4 times 6 power. I need to see what you put in your calculator. That's it. And then I need to see the answer. So let's practice doing this together. 1,580, and then 1 plus. I have 0.0235 divided by 4. Close your parenthesis and raise it to the 24th power. What do you guys get? $1,818.50. We're talking about money, so you need to have 2 decimal places. The other questions will tell you round to 3 decimal places, round to 5 decimal places. Just round to whatever they tell you to. Follow the directions. All right, so you guys can take a little look here and say, okay, my initial amount was 1,580. I ended up here after 6 years with 1,800. That makes sense. About a little less than $300. That's fine. If you went from 1,580 to millions and millions and millions, that should indicate that you did something wrong. All right, so for letter B, everything is the same. 1,580, 1 plus my interest rate of 0.0235. What changes is my n value. So now this is divided by 12, and it's raised to the 12 times 6 power. So in your calculators, 1,580, and then 1 plus 0.0235 divided by 12. Close your parenthesis, and then raise it to the 72. Or you can just put 6 times 12. And we get $1,819.00. Major difference there? Yep.
To get it like that, do we have to put the 0 cents in the answer?
No, I mean, the chances of it coming out like that are slim to none, but no. But do you guys see a vast difference between those two answers? No. You're not going to. You shouldn't. If you do, then you did something wrong. All right, so weekly, again, I need to see what you put in the calculator. So 1,580, 1 plus, my interest rate is still 0.0235. This time we're dividing by 52, and we're going to raise it to the 52 times 6. So calculators go. 1 plus 0.0235 divided by 52. Some people are going to think, oh, this number is going to be huge. This number is not going to be huge. 52 times 6. What'd you guys get? $1,819.19. Big difference? No. All right, when you work this out continuously with your APERT, should it be really, really different? No. Again, for APERT, I need to see your initial amount, 1580, and then your E, and you're going to raise it to the 0.0235 times 6. So 1580, second ln, and then I have 0.0235 times 6. And I got how much? $1,819.25. Look at all 4 of those answers, guys. They're all within $2 of each other, right? Not going to be a huge major difference. All right, so those definitely 2 of those on your quiz. So now we come to evaluating. Again, I need to see the same thing. I need to see what you put in the calculator and what you get. Let's evaluate number 2 and round to 5 decimal places. All right, you have to follow the directions. So number 2, we're going to say, all right, fine, we'll round to 5 decimal places. So what I need to see from you is A, what you put in the calculator. So -4, and then I have 1/3, and we're going to raise this to the -2 power plus 1. Everyone should practice this to make sure we understand how to put this in our calculators. Last period, lots of people have lots of questions, so it's good to do this. Remember, a negative sign is different from a minus sign, so make sure you use the correct signs. But when I plug this into my calculator, what do I get rounded to 5 decimal places? I got -35. Some of you probably redid that in your calculator thinking, there's no way. That's just the way that one worked out. No worries. You can have an ugly looking problem and it work out to be a nice looking number. No big deal. Because think about this. When I have 1/3 to the -2, that's the same as 3 to the second power, right? So 3 to the second power is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. So -36 plus 1, -35. All right, moving along. Let's look at B. Same thing. We're going to show me what you put in the calculator. So -4. I have 1/3. I'm going to raise it to the 2/3 power and add 1. So in your calculator, -4, parenthesis, you have 1/3. Close your parenthesis, and then you raise it to the 2/3 power. You can use the fraction button, or you can use 2 divided by 3. Just put it in parentheses. And then plus 1. Give you 5 decimal places. Yep. It's -0.92299. That 299 would actually round up to 300, but don't worry about that right this second. That's close enough. And then for C, we're going to evaluate. Exact same thing. I have -4. I have my 1/3. But this time we're going to raise it to the square root of 5. And then add 1. Lots of people had some issues with this in their calculators, entering it. So -4, parentheses, I have 1/3. Fingers aren't working. I'm going to raise that to the square root of 5 power, and then add 1. And we get 0.65709. So make sure you guys are showing me what's going in the calculator. You're showing me your answer, and you're rounding to whatever the directions tell you to do. 3 decimal places, 5 decimal places, 1 decimal place, whatever. All right, so let's move down here to the next one. This is the exact same kind of thing. You're just using your ln and E button. So we're going to first show that I have -2. To the E, and I'm going to raise it to the -4 plus 3 minus 5 power. You guys are going to show me what you put in the calculator. So -2 second ln, so negative 4 plus 3. Guys, make sure you use the negative sign and not the minus, and then minus 5. I got negative 5.736. Let's go to 3 decimal places for this one. We'll go to 3. All right, same thing. I have over here, I have negative 2 to the e. So I have negative 2/7 plus 3. And then I have minus 5 here. What's minus the negative? Okay, so you can just leave it as positive. That's fine. So second e. And then I have 2/7 plus 3. And then I'm minus 5. What'd you guys get? Anybody? Negative 58,457. Oops. 4, 5. Yeah. No, 456.
I have a question. You said to make sure you don't put the subtraction instead of the negative sign. I don't think my calculator, like, is every calculator like that?
Can we just calculate it? Yeah.
I'd rather you have a scientific.
I mean, I don't even know how to graph this.
That's fine, guys. All right, negative 2e. And now I'm going to plug in the square root of 2. So negative square root of 2 plus 3. And then minus 5. So we have negative 2, second ln. And then I have negative square root of 2. That might, let me know, Bella, if this still works the way that you were doing it. Okay. Plus 3. And then I have minus 5. No, it's fine. What did you guys get?
Negative 14.
I got negative 14.766.
Yeah, I got the same thing.
You did? Okay. Gus, let me see. This is why we're working this out now, so you guys can catch your mistakes when you have them. All right, let's look at D. What are we plugging in for D? Pi. All right, so you have negative 2e to the negative pi plus 3 minus 5. Show me what you're plugging in. So negative 2 second e. If you don't know where the pi button is, let me know. I'll show you. Negative pi plus 3. Oops, need to be in the exponent. Plus 3. And then minus 5. What'd you guys get? Negative 6.734. Agreed. All right, now for some reason you guys aren't getting these numbers. You don't have to tell me right now if you don't want to. But make sure that you ask me either at the end of class today or come back and ask me after school real quick so we can troubleshoot. All right, moving on, right? You're going to have a couple questions that talk about transformations. There's a couple ways you can answer this. God bless you. If you wanted to identify all the transformations, like with little arrows, and then color-coded or whatever for me, that's fine. You want to draw arrows like this, and then tell me what's going on just underneath them, that's fine as well. But you need to identify all of the transformations, and you need to tell me directions. Left or right. Horizontal, vertical. It's got to tell me if it's a shrink or a stretch, and you have to tell me if it's a reflection over X or Y. Just reflection doesn't work. Just stretch doesn't work. I have to know the direction. So what is this red arrow telling me here? It's a reflect over X. Good. So your red, this is a reflect over X-axis. All right, what is the yellow one? I said yellow last period. They're like, that's orange. Looks more yellow on my iPad, but yellow, orange-ish. What is that telling me?
Vertical shrink.
It's a vertical shrink. You can say shrink, or another word you can use is what? Compression. That's fine as well. But I have to know if it's a shrink or a stretch, and if it's vertical or horizontal. Then I have this blue minus sign, or the negative. What is that one up there? That's a reflect over the Y. Good. What about this green arrow that I'm pointing to? It's +2, but it's in the exponent with the X. What is that? It's a horizontal. It's going to be left 2. It's the opposite of the direction we would think. And then what does this -8 at the very end mean? down 8. Perfect. If you want to write it out in a little list like that, that's fine. But just understand, you can't, if you don't have colors, you can't just list all of them. You need to then show me arrows.
If you do like 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's fine. That's fine. You want to number it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fine. Yeah. Just as long as there's some rhyme or reason to it. That's fine. Here, let's do it that way on this one. So that's a good idea. All right. Here's one transformation, right? Here's one here. And here's one here. All right. So what is number 1 telling me? It's a vertical stretch. It's vertical and it's a stretch because the number is bigger than 1. What's number 2 telling me? It's with the exponent. So I know it's horizontal. Shrink. It's the opposite of what we think since it's horizontal. So horizontal shrink or compression, whichever word you want to use, that's fine. And then what is number 3? That minus 1. Down 1. Perfect. All right. So guys, that's a majority of your quiz right there. You're going to you're going to do your interest problems. You're going to evaluate. That's just calculator stuff. That's knowing the formula for interest, plugging it in the calculator. The evaluating is plugging in the calculator. And then describing transformations you guys have done 900 times. Moving on to the second page. Right? You will have questions like this where you're going to have to identify domain, range, horizontal asymptote, y-intercept for exponentials, domain, range, vertical asymptote for logs. So some things you guys need to remember. Exponentials and logs are what of each other? Inverses, opposites. So in an exponential function, your domain is negative infinity to what? Positive infinity. In a logarithmic function, your range is what? Negative infinity to positive infinity. That's really important to remember, guys. Those are gimmies. If I look at this first question, is this an exponential function or is this a logarithmic function? Exponential. There's 2 ways you can tell. 1, you can tell because the variable is in the exponent. And 2, another way you can tell is there's no word log. So I know, since this is an exponential function, what is the domain? Negative infinity to positive infinity. You can also tell the horizontal asymptote just by looking. What number is being added or subtracted to this function? 0. So it's at y equals 0. Has to be y equals for a horizontal asymptote. Just like it was when we did our rationals. Sorry, I couldn't think for a second. Now, in order to find the range, there's only 2 options, right? Your range from bottom to top is either going to be negative infinity to the horizontal asymptote or the horizontal asymptote to infinity. And the way you tell that is by looking in front of the function. If it's a positive function, it's from the asymptote up. If it's a negative function, it's from negative infinity to the asymptote. So this is what kind of an exponential function? Negative. There's a negative sign out in front. That means it flips over the x-axis. So what is your range? Negative infinity to 0. If it was a positive 1/3, it would be 0 to infinity. That's it. And then how do you find intercepts? How do you find the y-intercept? You plug in 0 for what? X. Now, I understand you guys are going to have a calculator. So if you want to put this in your calculator, that's fine. You'd have negative 1/3, and then you have 6 to the 2 times 0 power. Right? I have negative 1/3, and then I have 6 to the 0 power. What is 6 to the 0 power? 1. So this is negative 1/3. Some of you are going to put this in your calculator and get what? Negative 0.666666, right? It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm going to leave it in fraction form just because I like the way it looks better. So I have 0, negative 1/3. Most of your calculators will go back and forth from fractions to decimals. If you would like to know where that button is, I'll let you know and I'll show you. It's real easy. It just toggles back and forth. But we always write our intercepts as ordered pairs. Domain and range is always interval notation. Right? Number 7, same thing. This one's a little more complicated, but what kind of a function is this? It's an exponential, so I know right away, ooh, my domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. What is my horizontal asymptote? What is being added or subtracted at the end? So it's at y equals 2. You have to have the y equals, guys. And now let's talk about our range. Is it from negative infinity to the horizontal asymptote or horizontal asymptote to infinity? Remember, we read range from bottom to top. So look in the front here. Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
So what's your range? 2 to infinity. Good. And then the y-intercept. This one's not as easy to do as the last one was, so just plug it in your calculator. You have 5. Show me what you're doing. 2 over 3. And then you have 0 minus 4 in the exponent plus 2. So when you plugged in 0 for x, what did you get out for y? 5 times...
437 over 6.
Yep. So 2 divided by 3. And I raise that to the negative 4 power, and then I'm adding 2 to it. My calculator tells me 437 over 16. Where's getting 2 from? All right, some of you are like, I got a decimal. You might have got a decimal that says 27.3125. That's fine. Decimal equivalent is fine. It doesn't matter to me. You can do either one. But I can show you, most of your calculators will go from fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. So if you would like me to show you that, that's no problem. All right, let's look at 8 and 9. All right, 7 and 8 were exponential. What are 8 and 9? Logarithmic. What did we say at the beginning? Exponentials and logs are what of each other? Opposites, all right? So this is a logarithmic function. It says log in it. So I know that my range is always going to be what? Negative infinity to positive infinity. And then this one's a little easier because we're not finding any asymptotes. We'll do that when we talk about solving. But when you find the vertical asymptote, you're also finding the domain, the boundary. How do you find that? You set the parenthesis equal to what? Equal to 0. Good. So 3x minus 7. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides to get 3x equals 7. Divide both sides by 3. I get x equals 7/3. So your vertical asymptote is at x equals 7 over 3. It has to be x equals. Now you're talking about domain. A second ago we were talking about range from low to high. Now we're talking about domain from left to right. So your domain is either going to be negative infinity to the vertical asymptote or vertical asymptote to infinity. It's depending upon if there's a reflection. But I'm not looking for a reflection over the x-axis. I'm looking for a reflection where? So I need to see if there's a reflection here, in front here. Is there one? No. So since there is not a reflection on the inside there, what is your domain? 7 over 3 to infinity. Good. Remember, they are opposites of each other. For exponentials, you look out in front because that flips over the x. For logarithmics, you look inside because that flips over the y. All right, so same thing here for this last one. And then we're done. What is the range for every log function we're going to talk about? Negative infinity, good, to positive infinity. How do I find the domain and vertical asymptote? You set the parenthesis equal to 0. So negative 5x plus 12 equals 0. Move 12 to the other side. I have negative 5x equals negative 12. Divide both sides by negative 5. You get x equals 12 over 5, okay? So your vertical asymptote is at x equals 12 over 5. So think about it. We're talking left to right. So is my domain negative infinity to the vertical asymptote or from your vertical asymptote to infinity? Look at where this negative sign is. It's going to go infinity, good, to the vertical asymptote. So you're going to go from negative infinity to your vertical asymptote, 12 over 5. Perfect. And that, my friends, is the mechanics and stuff behind our logarithmic functions, our evaluating, and our interest problems. We will get into solving, condensing and expanding and solving and all that good stuff later. 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5. That'll be on our test. All right, we good?